Okay. You know, it's really bad when you have a hard time following the presider. You know, they really set you up. Sam, you know, it's... So, I guess we should go to the next slide, please. And then the next... So, you've had a chance to meet our public policy team. And you know, Kim Jones was head of our public policy team before she became executive vice president. So I don't want to say this is the strongest public policy team that we've ever had. However, it is the only time that we have had two people with Hill experience forming our public policy team. We have a phenomenally strong public policy team, and I just want to thank them, and you're in really good hands. So, the first thing on the slide is intended to say they just found bunches, trillions of dollars to save the tech world. Trillionaires, billionaires, they, you know, and rightly they didn't do it by just pouring money. They got other people to pour money into these banks. But rich people in our society, that was done in a weekend. A weekend. They don't have anybody to worry about that they won't have access. They won't be represented. They won't be heard. They will be heard. Then you've got what is intended to be the defense contractors. They will be heard too. Defense, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, will be heard. They have plenty of lobbyists, they have plenty of constituents, they have plenty of people that will take care not just of our Army and our enlisted people, but also of the people who make the weapons. They will be heard. Now this is the third piece is controversial, okay? This is intended to be an old person, okay? But it says baby boomers and Generation X. So when I was testing these pictures in my office, all the Generation X people said, I'm not old, that's not me, that's me, so, you know. But it is not Generation X. But we all know that in protecting Social Security and Medicare, they're protecting not just the people that are getting it now, but the people that are going to get it next. Because, you know, when you want to save money, and when you want to change something, you never change it with the people that are affected. Not the people that are getting Medicare, getting Social Security. It's the people that are going to get it. So you change it to, hey, raise the age of Social Security or tax more of the Medicare withholding. They're not doing that, right? Baby boomers, Gen X, they're protected. People are saying to our members of Congress, don't touch us, don't touch us. Don't touch the rich people, don't touch defense contractors, don't touch the military, and don't touch, I can't say they're old, you know, but approaching senior status, okay? You cannot touch them either, okay? So, who does that leave? Nope, It leaves the students in your programs. It leaves the next generation that's going to run this country. It leaves young people, because we've become very selfish, and rather than represent young people, we're representing ourselves. We're representing the people with money, the people that are making money off of defense, and the old people and the next generation of old people. I'm going to not say old people anymore because I might not be left off of the stage. But nobody else. You're probably the only group of people that are going to go up to the offices of members of Congress, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, that are going to say anything about young adults, high school students, middle school students, people, young adults, meaning not just people that are just graduating from high school or in college, but maybe people who didn't go right on to college. You're the only ones representing them. Other than you, who's going to go up there and say, these people are our future, our country's future. We can't be balancing the budget on the back of people that are not spoken for. We're here to speak for the future. We're here to speak for the future of our country. And you're the only ones that are going to be there to speak for those young people and young adults. When I first came to Washington, which many of you know was long, long time ago, two people said to me, "You are really lucky to represent the people that you represent." The first person who said that was the executive secretary of the American Association of University Professors. So the gentleman who represents faculty. And he said, "I could never bring my constituents to the Hill because they would never mention a student. They would only talk about their research. So I can't bring them here. They can't advocate. They don't have enough vision to advocate." The second was Dr. Mitchum. And at the time, you know, we didn't have any fancy apps like Kim has put together and our communications team has put together. We used to have mailgrams, you know, which it was kind of a sophisticated fax that you sent to the FedEx office and then they delivered it, and no emails, no nothing. And Dr. Mitchum said, "Think if we were representing Head Start parents. Could they negotiate this environment? Could they get the mailgrams and the blah, blah, and the blah, blah?" And the answer is probably not. Not only was it a question of education, but it was also a question of money. And so we're in a really privileged position. So as you look around and see the people that are here with you, you are all equipped to do what you have to do on Wednesday. You are equipped to represent your students and their families. You have the resources, you have the education, you have the brains, you have the understanding. You have things that a lot of other people don't have. And it may be scary, although as you saw from the people who've been here for 92 years, it's not that scary, they keep coming back, you know. But you're equipped to do it. You have the information to do it, you're equipped to do it, and your peers are equipped to do it. So you're on this. You know what you're doing. That's especially important this year because you're carrying two contradictory messages to the Hill. So, what's the first message? The first message is TRIO needs $107 million to march towards 1 million students. We need $107 million additional to get to $1.3 billion for a number of reasons. We need it because our economy needs it. They need a trained workforce for all those people who care about workforce. And, we all care about the workforce, even the people on Social Security. To protect Pell Grants, because if you're going to spend $6,000 on giving somebody an opportunity to go to college and don't give them the support to stay in college and graduate, you've just wasted a lot of money. And if they've borrowed money additionally, you've really wasted a lot of money. So, and this is what motivates each of you to provide each young person or client, adult client in your programs or adult client in college, the opportunity to reach their full potential, to say to them, nothing is off the table. Your country doesn't want anything off the table. Dream as big as you can dream. Reach as high as you can reach. If you've got talent and motivation, this is still the land of opportunity. Education is still the way that you can better your life and the life of your family. And you're one of the few groups of people that can really say that honestly and make it happen for people. So that's, on the one hand, we need $107 million. But we know, and why well, I think I missed a slide. But on the other hand, we know that a lot of people just want to cut. Not every Republican wants to cut. And you can never make the mistake of putting every member of any party in one category. You can never, probably if you lined them up, some of our strongest advocates are Republicans. If you look at where we've gained money over the past 10 years, it is because of Republican leadership, even under Trump. And so you've got to be really, really careful not to just throw everybody in one bag and say, hey, they're all anti-education, or they're all anti-this, or they're all crazy, or they're all... You can't do that. You really can't do that. And if you don't know enough about the people that you're meeting with, you just got to keep your mouth shut. You just got to let people who know them better talk, because you don't want to make a mistake. I mean, think if you were on a date and you totally misread the other person. Your chances of getting... I didn't mean to say that. I really did not mean to say that, okay? Or I meant to say more, but I'm trying to recover. I'll try to recover, okay? Okay. Kim, you don't have a very hard act to follow. Okay, we want more. Okay, we want $107 million, okay? We want more. But in the context, both of the people that are ready to give us more and the people who don't want to give us a dime more, we need to get them to say, if we can protect the bankers and the rich people, if we can protect the old people and the almost old people, they're not almost old, the senior people, if we can protect defense, then you can protect the next generation. You can protect education, and you can make sure that if any across-the-board cut happens, education is not going to be cut, okay? So it is a trick bag. You say, we want more, and we want you to make sure that you care enough about low-income students, first-generation students, veterans, students with disabilities, that you're going to protect them from harm. that they deserve as much as those bankers. That they have as many rights and they're as important to the future of our country as as anybody else. So why are we asking for 107 million? Now, your public policy team and I really wanted to reach 1 million students. We wanted to send you up to the Hill with an ask that was enough to get us to 1 million students. But another thing Dr. Mitchum told me was, you never send your people to fight a battle that they don't have at least 51% chance of winning. And when we ran the numbers to 1 million students, we just couldn't come up with a number that we thought it was fair to ask you to ask for. So that's why we're not asking for 1 million students in 2024. We'll have to wait for 2025 to ask for 1 million students, okay? So that says, well, then what number are you going to ask for if you can't ask for 1 million students? Because that would have been the logical thing to ask for. So, but President Biden gave us a pretty good number, 107 million. And so rather than make up another number, just pull it out of the hat, we said, well, let's go with the Biden number. At least they'll see that on paper fairly often. The Democrats should be able to embrace it. Now, how many of you were at the Department of Education session today? And when CJ opened the session, you know, we all really, we appreciate him. We appreciate the Assistant Secretary. We appreciate the Undersecretary who's going to be here tomorrow, and the Secretary, who we've never had, since Lyndon Johnson, an administration that has cared enough about TRIO to put numbers forth that we could support. So that's really, really important that but as you listen to CJ, that was a long list of things they want, okay? That was a re-election list, okay? And a whole bunch of things on that list are not going to happen, okay? We do have a Republican House that is trying to cut things. So we have to make that number something that is real and not just on a re-election list, okay? And we can do that because most of those programs don't have one student that's been assisted by them. Of course, Pell Grants has, the existing programs have, but none of the other things can be attached to one person. So we can win this $107 million. It can be something that Democrats and Republicans agree to fund. So that's really why we went with it. And it gets us closer to 1 million students. So why do we oppose across-the-board cuts? TRIO has only, since 1964, when Upward Bound was established, TRIO has only, the appropriated number for TRIO, has only been cut twice. In both of those times, it wasn't cut because TRIO was cut. It was cut because the Congress approved an across-the-board cut in non-defense discretionary programs that included education. So back in 1986, they passed the Grant-Rudman-Hollings budget balancing thing, and that's why we have National TRIO Day today, because we wanted to protest cutting TRIO at a time just because they had to come up with some solution, and so they take the easiest thing across. Don't they do that at your institutions? Oh, we have to cut X number from the budget, so we're going to cut X percent across the board. So this is a real fight we have. The next time that we were cut, the trio was cut was in 2012 during the Obama administration, when we had a similar Republican House, and it was the Budget Control Act that affected funding for a number of years. We just got out of it, and we took a 5% cut. So this worry about the across-the-board cut is really, really, really real. In fact, today, the Secretary of Education wrote to the ranking Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee and said, if one Republican proposal, which has credibility, to take funding back to FY22 occurred, we would take a 22% cut. Education would take a 22% cut. That's straight from the Secretary to the Congresswoman DeLauro. So this idea of across-the-board cut is really, we should be worried about it. It has happened. It could happen. And we have to really tell people, hey, that's not an acceptable solution. If you can take care of the bankers, if you can take care of the billionaires, you can take care of the young people. You can take care of students who are doing so much to achieve their dreams. They don't need you crushing them, you know? So, now, it would be really nice if I could tell you what's going to happen in the next several months, and I can't. It gives me some comfort that I don't think anybody else could tell you what's going to happen either. So far, the Republican House has not put a proposal on the table. They haven't said to President Biden, well, if you do this, we'll agree to raise the debt ceiling. And if they raise the debt ceiling, that's like a bomb out there. Unless they raise the debt ceiling, you can't have a budget. If you can't have a budget, you can't have appropriations. Not only that, you know, jobs disappear, our credit rating in the United States goes down, our interest rates go up, so they're holding it out over those who really want cuts are holding it over people's heads. Now, you could have a clean debt ceiling. They could just say, oh, we're going to raise the debt ceiling, and vote, and everybody votes to raise the debt ceiling, and then we go on and come up with a budget. But people are using it, and have used it usually, not always, as a weapon to get what they want. I mean, politics is nonviolent war, you know? So it's appropriate to do that. So what happens on the debt ceiling is really important. And as you look at it, they've already said we're not going to touch those old people and those almost old people. Kim's going to kill me. We're not going to touch the rich people and the banks. We're not going to touch defense. We can't touch the interest on the national debt. So there's only so much left to touch, non-defense discretionary spending, and depending on how you do it, just like the Secretary said today, it could mean a 9% to 23% cut in every TRIO grant. It would, if they just agreed, if Democrats just lay down and play dead. Now, they're not going to lay down and play dead, but it's a long way between 22 and 0. It's certainly a long way between 22% cut and a $107 million increase. Okay? So we can't give up on that $107 million increase, but we can't be blind and pretend that a cut is not on the horizon, not possible. I'm going to stop for a second and just say, did I make sense? Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So just a couple of recommendations. Some of us, I like to argue My staff hates that, okay? You know, I was trained as a lawyer, and lawyers like to argue, you know? A congressional visit is not the time to argue. You are not going to convince anybody who thinks there should be cuts in the budget that there shouldn't be cuts in the budget, okay? You're not that smart. I'm not that smart. Nobody, you know, maybe there's somebody, but it's not a matter of intelligence. People don't believe what they believe because of reason. They believe what they believe because of experience, because it got them elected, because people, their peers believe it, the people they go out to dinner with believe it. You're not going to change that for a staff member or a member of Congress. So don't get into an argument, okay? You have to be forceful in saying what your position is, but don't assume that you can change somebody else's position. So what is it if it's not a chance to make your points? You make your points, but don't expect that they're just going to be so brilliant that you're going to have convinced somebody to change their position. But what it is an opportunity to begin or continue and build upon a relationship. If you go in there tomorrow, Wednesday, and you have a visit, and you never talk to that member or that staff person again in the next 2 months, and again in the next 2 months after that, then in some ways your coming to Washington is wasted. You're going to build a relationship. It might not always be the friendliest relationship. It may not always be, not have tension in it, but TRIO wants a relationship with every member of Congress. Now, Zach used to work for a person that was a member that was on a pretty conservative part of the Republican caucus. But when Upward Bound was in a situation where a lot of applications were thrown out because they missed a half of a quarter of a third of an inch in their spacing of a graphic, it was the conservative member of Congress that got that reversed. Not alone, with people from the other side of the aisle, from Democrats too. But why did they do that? Why did he step out? He stepped out because that Upward Bound program that was going to be defunded in his district, he had a relationship with that program. He knew that those students needed that program. And he knew that there were good federal programs around. And while he wanted to cut the federal budget, he didn't want to cut good federal programs. So the relationship's what's most important. You got to make your points, but you got to establish a relationship. Does that make sense to people? Okay. The other thing that says, but it says it kind of low, is treat the staff like they were the member. You know, you might be meeting with somebody who's 23, who's never met a poor person in their life, okay? Who's arrogant. But you got to kind of forget all that and pretend that they're a senator, their senator, or a member, and that you can't afford not to treat them with the respect you would treat the member or the senator. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And you kind of got to steel yourself. But you got to do it, because if you don't do it, so I only bring Dr. Mitchum up here to talk about him, you know? But some of you may know that in the going from fiscal 1977 until he retired from Congress, Congressman Stokes was the primary advocate for the federal TRIO programs. But when Dr. Mitchum first met Mr. Stokes, he said, you know, TRIO funding has been frozen for 3 years. And he expected Mr. Stokes to say, oh, that's a tragedy. And what Mr. Stokes said was, what's wrong with the programs? Okay? He had to be, that relationship had to be nurtured. He had to meet students. He had to meet professionals. It wasn't just automatic. It didn't happen with one visit. And it won't happen with your members either. It takes time for that to happen. It's really, really, really important to get your members out to your state association, your regional association meetings, and your programs. I probably say all the time, I can't get into the offices that you're getting into tomorrow. Some of you know, the team leaders know, that we worked really hard to get a representative from every congressional district that has a TRIO program. Because they don't want to listen to Diane. They don't want to listen to me. They only want to listen to the people that keep their jobs for them. That makes sense, right? So getting into the office, you have to get us into the office. And if you do that, if you set the groundwork for getting our staff into the office, that's a huge win. Getting them out to your program is a much bigger win, because your students and parents can make a case that you can't make. We have a certain self-interest in arguing for TRIO to continue. I don't think that hurts your credibility very much. You are so passionate, you're so strongly know your students, but you get a member before your students, and it's hard for them to say, no, this young person, this veteran, this underemployed worker doesn't have a right to make his life and his family's right better. So just like you get us into the congressional offices, in part to begin an argument, getting that member in front of your students and parents is a really important step. So my last thing is the cherry blossoms have not opened yet, but they're supposed to open tomorrow. You can't go see them tomorrow, and you can't go see them if it interferes with any congressional meeting, okay, or the rally on Wednesday. But usually they open 2 weeks after you leave town. So this is climate change, and so this is the first time that the policy seminar would ever allow you to see the cherry blossom. So if you have a chance, and don't try to ride down there because you'll get stuck in traffic for 3.5 days. But do take advantage of that if you can do that, and do what the primary thing you're here to do, which is represent your students. So thank you very much, and please ask some questions. I should plant questions. You think I would have learned that by now, right? Thank you.